I learn something new each day and forget 5 others. Well, obviously, we are talking about memory today. And so our topic is really interesting for students, right? The psychology of remembering and forgetting. Now, we are actually going to do a number of demos in this class, but the only one that cannot be done on Zoom is this very first one. So this is the only one that you have to visualize, okay? Okay, so to introduce this lecture, I want you to visualize this demo as if we did it in the classroom, and remember any test question, we'll refer to it in that way, right? So students, I have students take out a blank piece of paper and a writing device and give them instructions, and then I read a list of 19 words. Now, the right half of the room gets these instructions. Rate each word by writing down a number from the scale, with 1 being the most negative and 7 being the most positive. Okay. I also warned them that, this is going to go really fast, and sometimes it's going to be easy. Say, for instance, I say the word book, and you have just finished a book that you loved or hated, okay? But sometimes it's going to be more difficult. If I say chair, for example, and a particular chair does not come to mind to you quickly, you still need to rate it very quickly. So it's going to go really fast. You're just going to have to use your intuition, right? And write a number down. All right. Now, the other side of the class, the left side, gets different instructions. Same list of words they're listening to, but what they're doing is visualizing the word and then simply counting the number of E's, the vowel E in the word. So keep in mind, regardless of what side of the class, students respond to each word by writing down a single digit number, right? Okay, finally, I advise that once I start, I can't stop or slow down. So if the word has more than one meaning, or if they just aren't sure they heard it right, go with the first word or meaning that pops into your mind, right? And then I read the list of words and I pause just long enough between them for most students to write down a single digit in response. Now, when I finish, they all have a column of just single numbers on their page. So then I ask them to recall words from the list and to write them down and to count them. Okay, so see how many they can recall from the list, write them down, and to count them. I ask all students to raise their hands if they remembered 4 or more words, and virtually the entire class raises their hands. I ask them to keep their hands up if they remembered 5 or more, 6 or more, 7 or more, okay? And really, at about the point of 8, we don't need to go any further. I can stop it. Hey, let them leave their hands in the air, the ones that are right, but have them look around to both sides of the classroom and compare how many hands are up. Because by 8 or 9, or at least by 10, okay, there's going to be significantly more hands on the right side than the left side. Then we have an interesting discussion, because I ask why the right side did so much better overall. Okay, are they smarter? And the left side generally quickly points out that, well, they only visualized the word. The right side had to think about the meaning of the word, right? And which is a beautiful point. And then somebody else will usually also point out that not only did they think about the meaning of the word, but how it meant to them personally. Okay? And yes, they're correct. You know, the right side encoded the words into their brain at a higher level than the left side did. Okay, left side was much more of a superficial level of encoding. Okay, the left side encoded in this really difficult way, a way that's easy to do at the time, but difficult to remember those words later. Deep side in a much deeper, more meaningful way. And we're going to expand on encoding more in just a bit. So let's look at the definition of memory. Memory is the ability to encode, store, and retrieve information. Okay? So there are 3 steps, right? 3 processes involved in memory. And we're going to explore each of these in more depth, one at a time. So let's start with encoding. Encoding is putting information into a form or code for it to enter the brain. Have you ever tried to save a document on the web and you found that it's saved, but it's just a garble of letters and digits, right? So the original document was encoded in a way that you could not read it, okay, on your computer. So as you saw in our demo, information has to be coded into memory in a meaningful way, right? You have to be looking for the meaning. That has to be your goal, not counting the letter E's, right? Storage is the ability to store information in the brain. Have you ever forgotten to save a computer document that you were working on? We've all done that before, right? Information must be successfully stored in memory in order for there to be any chance of remembering it later. Okay? And then retrieval is the ability to find it in storage. You ever stored a new document in the wrong file? You know, it's stored with information that it doesn't even relate to. You would never reasonably go there to find it. So you lost it. Okay? In order for you to later retrieve information, it must be stored in a reasonable way, connected to other stuff that is in the same category, let's say. All right?